Welcome to While We Were Distracted, the podcast where we explore topics that often get overshadowed in the rush of daily life.
So, picture this for a second. You are standing right in the middle of a grocery store.
Right.
The fluorescent lights are doing that little, that humming thing overhead. You've got a cart with that one squeaky wheel that just sort of echoes down the aisle.
Oh, we all know that wheel.
Yeah, exactly. And you are just completely lost in thought about what to make for dinner. I mean, it is the most mundane, routine, universally understood errand on the planet.
Totally.
You've got your list, you're checking things off, and you are just in your own little world. We all know that feeling, you know? It's almost like a meditative space, just a tiny pocket of downtime in an otherwise really busy week.
That's a sanctuary for a lot of people, honestly.
Right. But what happens when that completely safe, everyday environment is suddenly just shattered by the realization that you are not actually alone in your little world, that you are being watched, followed, and potentially even recorded by a complete stranger?
That's exactly the kind of scenario that instantly makes the hair on the back of your neck stand right up.
It really does. So today we are taking a deep dive into an incident that took a normal grocery run and turned it into this incredibly tense viral confrontation, one that's now been viewed over 2 million times.
2 million. It's wild. And the reason it resonates so deeply is because it speaks to such a fundamental vulnerability that we all have. You know, we all share these semi-public spaces, and we're basically operating under this unspoken social contract that we will all just mind our own business.
Right, the social contract of the grocery store.
Exactly. But today, we are analyzing an event where that contract was broken. It took place on February 15th, 2026, down in DeKalb County, Georgia, and it recently broke into major news headlines on March 4th.
Yeah, and our stack of sources for this deep dive comes directly from the local coverage by Atlanta News First, or WANFIF. We are pulling from an incredibly detailed news article they published, plus the actual live broadcast transcript.
Really thorough reporting on their end.
It was. It featured reporting by Sydney Stallworth right alongside anchors Blair Miller and Tracy Hutchins, and they laid out the entire timeline of this confrontation, the whole ensuing police investigation, and, of course, the massive public reaction.
Right.
So our mission today is to break down exactly what happened, how the situation was handled in the moment, and most importantly, what actionable steps you, the listener, can take if you ever find yourself in a similar scenario.
What's fascinating here is how this story is not just about one isolated incident in a single grocery aisle. It really acts as a real-world case study, a case study on privacy, the undeniable power of human intuition, and how we are constantly forced to navigate our personal safety in everyday public spaces.
It really strips away that illusion of the mundane, doesn't it?
It does. It asks us to carefully consider how we interpret and react to anomalies in our environment.
Okay, let's unpack this timeline, because the way this whole thing escalated from just a subtle feeling to a very direct confrontation is incredibly chilling. So we're putting you right there at the scene. It is February 15th, 2026. The location is the Kroger grocery store on Covington Highway in Lafonia, Georgia.
Setting the stage.
Yep. And our focus is on a shopper named Reese Mitchell. She is just going about her day, navigating the store, when she gets over to the meat department. And that is where she first notices him. Just a man who seems to be, lingering a little too closely.
Let's pause right there for a second. Right there in the meat department. Because we need to examine the mechanics of situational awareness.
Oh, I like that. The mechanics of it.
Yeah, think about your own habits when you are shopping. I mean, most of us just have our heads down, right?
Oh, totally. I'm staring at my phone half the time.
Exactly. We are comparing price tags. We're reading nutrition labels, maybe checking that digital list. We actively tune out the people around us. Because the brain essentially filters out expected routine behavior to save energy.
It's background noise.
Right. But Mitchell's baseline situational awareness was sharp enough to register a spatial anomaly. See, the brain is essentially a highly sophisticated prediction engine. It knows the normal rhythm and the normal flow of a grocery store.
Like people should be passing by you, not stopping right next to you for no reason.
Precisely. When someone breaks that rhythm by matching your pace or, violating your physical perimeter, the subconscious mind flags it. It flags it before the conscious mind even fully processes that there's a threat. She noticed a presence that simply did not fit the normal, purposeful movement of a fellow shopper.
And Mitchell actually told the news reporters that she grew increasingly concerned as she moved through the store. She's trying to create some distance, right? Just naturally going about her route. but he continues to stay right there with her.
He's shadowing her.
Yeah, shadowing. And the tension really hits a breaking point when she transitions over to the dairy department. She said, quote, "Once I got to the dairy department, that's when I noticed how close he was." So it went from just a vague suspicion to this completely undeniable physical proximity.
And that physical movement, moving through the actual geography of this store, is a really crucial element of threat assessment.
How so?
Well, moving from the meat department all the way to the dairy department is effectively a test. In security terms, she is altering her vector.
Okay, altering her vector.
Right. If this man's proximity was just a mere coincidence, perhaps they just happened to need items in the exact same aisles, their paths would naturally diverge as she navigated across the massive store.
Right, because nobody has the exact same grocery list.
Exactly. The fact that the proximity was maintained and even intensified by the time she reached the dairy aisle forces a major shift. The brain moves from passive observation to active threat assessment. The whole coincidence theory basically evaporates.
Wow. And okay, here's where it gets really interesting. This was not a random first-time anomaly. When Mitchell finally turned around and looked directly at his face, she realized she actually knew him, or at least she recognized him.
This is the turning point.
Yeah. This was the exact same man who had followed her in this store once before. I mean, I can only imagine the psychological whiplash of that realization.
It's staggering.
Right. How does recognizing someone from a previous uncomfortable encounter change the dynamic of a moment like this?
It instantly escalates the situation.
Yeah.
It takes it from a possible misunderstanding directly to an established predatory pattern.
A pattern.
Yes. Often, social conditioning dictates that we should ignore minor boundary violations, right? People, and particularly women, frequently talk themselves out of feeling uncomfortable. They tell themselves they're just overreacting or being paranoid or, I don't know, misreading the situation.
Like, oh, I'm just being crazy. He's just looking at the cheese.
Exactly. But the moment Mitchell recognized him, that entire filter of social politeness just vanished. Her intuition was immediately validated by historical data.
And the details of that first encounter are really what pushed this into deeply alarming territory. Because Mitchell explained to the reporters that during that previous incident, he wasn't just uncomfortably close to her, he was alarmingly close to her children.
And there it is.
Yeah. She noted that the first time, she wasn't entirely sure if he was actually recording her, but she knew something was fundamentally wrong because of how his physical presence encroached on her kids.
The introduction of children into any threat matrix causes the stakes to absolutely skyrocket.
Oh, 100%. Mama bear instinct.
From a behavioral perspective, remembering that previous boundary violation involving her children is what triggered a really decisive shift in her mindset. It moves the needle from evasion, simply trying to walk away or lose them in the aisles, to direct action.
Which she articulated really clearly.
She did. She stated her internal thought process very clearly in the source material. She said, "I have to confront him now. There is no more retreating."
Which leads us to the tactic she actually used to confront him. Because she didn't just turn around and shout at him, she pulled out her own smartphone and hit record.
A digital standoff.
Exactly, a digital standoff. She turned the lens right back on him. It really makes me think about how the smartphone has essentially become a modern tool for self-defense. It's like drawing a digital sword right there in the middle of a grocery aisle.
It is the ultimate modern defense mechanism. Documenting the proof in real time shifts the entire power dynamic.
Because it's undeniable.
Right. It creates an objective record of a situation that might otherwise be dismissed by authorities or management as a misunderstanding or just a simple he said, she said scenario.
And the visual that she captured on that video, which was described in really sharp detail in the news reports, is incredibly unsettling. When she started recording, she actually zoomed in on his grocery cart, and inside his cart, his phone wasn't just sitting flat next to a carton of milk or whatever. It was deliberately propped up, facing out, and pointed directly at her.
The physical setup of that phone is perhaps the most critical detail of this entire confrontation.
Yeah, it's not like he just dropped it in there.
No, it completely eliminates the excuse of someone just clumsily texting while walking or holding their phone awkwardly while looking for groceries. Propping a phone up inside a moving cart requires premeditation.
It's basically a makeshift tripod.
Exactly. It suggests a deliberate, calculated attempt to capture video hands-free, all while maintaining the disguise of normal, everyday shopping. It is quite literally an intentional surveillance apparatus hidden in plain sight.
Wow. an intentional surveillance apparatus. And Mitchell made her suspected motive very clear to the reporters when discussing that propped-up camera. She stated, quote, "I think he was trying to get footage of my behind." That was her immediate stated belief regarding what this hands-free setup was actually targeting as he shadowed her from the meat department to the dairy department.
Which represents a profound violation of privacy and personal autonomy.
It really does.
To have someone covertly turn your body into content without your consent, especially in an environment as profoundly mundane and necessary as a neighborhood Kroger, it completely shatters the baseline expectation of safety we all rely on to just function in society.
And the tension in the video is just palpable. You really have to imagine standing there in the dairy aisle, holding your phone up, recording a man whose phone is recording you. The WAN broadcast actually shared the audio of her confrontation. Mitchell says loud and clear on the recording, "Can you get away from me recording me with your phone like that?"
It's so direct.
It's incredibly direct, it's assertive, and it calls out the exact behavior immediately. It leaves absolutely no room for misinterpretation.
What I find highly compelling is how the media handled this explosive footage once it left Mitchell's phone and actually made it to the news desk. The anchors at Atlanta News First, Blair Miller and Tracy Hutchins, framed this story as a clear case of privacy violated, and the reporting referred to the man as a possible prowler. Yet visually, the broadcast made a very specific editorial choice. If you watch the news package, the man's face is completely blurred out.
I noticed that in the broadcast materials. It's an interesting contrast. Why would a news station intentionally protect the identity of someone they are simultaneously labeling a possible prowler on live television?
It comes down to standard journalistic practice and media ethics rooted in the presumption of innocence.
Legally speaking.
Yes. Because the man had not yet been formally charged with a crime by law enforcement at the time of the March 4th broadcast, he remained officially unidentified by the news station.
Okay, that makes sense.
Traditional news organizations operate under very strict ethical guidelines regarding identifying individuals who haven't entered the formal legal system as official suspects. This creates a fascinating friction between two different worlds, really.
How so?
Well, on one hand, you have the highly filtered, legally cautious nature of broadcast journalism. On the other hand, you have the raw, unfiltered nature of the internet, where Mitchell shared the video directly to her social media.
Oh, right. Let's definitely talk about the internet side of this, because the scale of the virality here is just staggering. Mitchell posted this footage to social media, and the source material notes it racked up over 2 million views.
It's a massive number.
2 million. I want you, the listener, to just imagine the sheer scale of that number for a second. Imagine you have a deeply uncomfortable, highly personal, truly frightening dispute in the dairy aisle of your local grocery store. It is a terrifying, isolating moment, and then suddenly 2 million strangers are watching it play out on their screens.
It's surreal.
It completely changes the dynamic of a local neighborhood incident. It takes it from a private nightmare to a massive public spectacle.
It amplifies the event to a national scale instantly. It becomes a cultural talking point, a cautionary tale, and a subject of intense public debate, which is, of course, precisely why the local news picked it up and why we're analyzing it today. But we do have to remember that despite the massive digital audience that eventually witnessed this, the immediate physical reality of the confrontation had a very abrupt, kind of unceremonious resolution.
Yeah, let's get back to the immediate aftermath inside the store. After Mitchell directly asked him to get away from her and explicitly called out his little recording setup, what did the man actually do?
Right.
According to Mitchell, he just walked off, just turned and walked away.
No argument, no defense.
Nope. But Mitchell did not stick around to see where he went or if he was still hiding in the store. Her immediate priorities shifted from confrontation back to her own personal safety. She told reporters that the second she stopped recording, she ran straight to the front of the store.
Which is exactly the optimal instinct in that scenario.
To run to the front.
Yes. Once you have documented the threat and verbally established a firm boundary, the very next step is to remove yourself from the isolated geography of the aisle. You seek out a highly populated area and locate authority.
Which is what she did.
Exactly. And that brings us to the institutional action that followed. This provides a really clear framework for how these incidents are properly escalated.
Walk us through that chain of command, because once she reached the front of that Kroger, things seemed to lock into place fairly quickly.
First, store leadership became involved. Retail spaces operate under a concept of liability and a duty of care to their patrons. Mitchell stated that Kroger management immediately contacted law enforcement.
They didn't brush it off.
They did not hesitate or try to downplay her concerns. So, following that immediate corporate response, Mitchell took the formal legal step of filing a police report directly with the DeKalb County Police Department.
So there's a clear process.
Exactly. You have a three-tiered escalation here. The personal response of documenting the incident, the corporate response of securing the environment and calling for help, and finally the legal response of initiating a formal investigation.
And both Mitchell and Kroger made their public stances very clear in the wake of this incident going viral. Mitchell's quote is something that I think will resonate deeply with a lot of people listening to this right now. She said, quote, "Women need to feel safe shopping in their neighborhood stores. I hope he gets locked up for this."
It's a very powerful statement.
It is a fundamental plea for basic security in everyday life. You just shouldn't have to keep your head on a swivel just to buy milk.
No, you shouldn't. And Kroger, recognizing both the profound community safety aspects and the obvious public relations implications of a viral incident occurring in their store, issued a formal statement to Atlanta News First.
What did they say?
The Kroger spokesperson stated that the safety and security of our customers and associates is our top priority, and they confirmed they were working closely with local law enforcement regarding the matter.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you? We have a viral video with millions of views, a police report, and corporate statements assuring the public. But for you, the listener, navigating your own neighborhood stores, pushing your own squeaky cart down the aisle, what is the actionable takeaway here? The DeKalb County Police actually weighed in on exactly what you should do if you find yourself in Mitchell's shoes.
This is perhaps the most practical piece of knowledge to pull from the sources today. The DeKalb County Police Department offered a highly specific protocol for shoppers who find themselves in a similarly uncomfortable, invasive, or threatening situation.
What's the protocol?
They advised that you should report it immediately to store management first and then contact law enforcement.
I really want to linger on that point for a moment, because the order of operations there, going to management first, seems incredibly deliberate. Why is that the recommended protocol? I think a lot of people would assume you just call 911 immediately.
Because store management has immediate physical control over the environment you are currently standing in. They can instantly deploy in-house security personnel to your specific location.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Right. They can review internal camera footage in real time to track the individual's movements through the store, ensuring they haven't circled back to find you. Most importantly, they can provide a secure, monitored haven for the shopper while law enforcement is being dispatched to the scene.
So it's about immediate physical safety.
Precisely. Calling the police is essential for the long-term legal resolution, but alerting store management is about utilizing the immediate resources around you to regain instant control of your physical safety.
Wow. That is incredibly useful advice. And we also need to remind everyone that this is not a closed book. This isn't just a scary story from the past. It is an ongoing reality. As of the March 4th news broadcast, the DeKalb County Police Department stated that this case remains completely open and active. They are actively seeking information to identify the man in the video.
They are utilizing multiple avenues for the public to assist in the investigation. If anyone has information, the police provided specific tip lines.
We should share those.
Yes, you can call them directly at 404-294-2911. They also have a free mobile app for submitting tips, or you can use their text line by texting the letters DKPD, followed by your tip, to the number 847-411.
Let me just repeat that last one. That text number is 847-411. Providing 3 different ways to submit a tip really shows just how seriously this active investigation is being taken by the local authorities.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of the intense journey we just took. We started with a completely mundane trip to the Kroger on Covington Highway. We saw how a woman's sharp situational awareness picked up on a spatial anomaly, a man matching her pace from the meat department to the dairy department. We uncovered the chilling twist that he had done this before, encroaching on her space and her children's space, which validated her intuition and shifted her into action. We broke down the tense confrontation where Mitchell used her phone as a digital shield to expose his deliberately propped up camera, resulting in an unfiltered viral moment with over 2 million views.
Huge moment.
And finally, we tracked the immediate aftermath. Seeking populated safety at the front of the store, management escalating the situation to the police, and the DeKalb County Police launching an active, open investigation that relies on public tips.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this entire event serves as a vital, real-world masterclass in trusting your intuition. Intuition is not magic, and it is not paranoia. It is your brain rapidly processing subtle environmental data points that signal danger before your conscious mind can even articulate them.
That is so true.
Mitchell's intuition was screaming at her, validated by historical data from a past encounter, and she listened to it. Furthermore, it highlights the absolute necessity of knowing the proper protocol, alerting store management to secure your immediate environment and then contacting the police, so you can quickly transition from feeling like a vulnerable target to actively taking control of the situation.
It really changes the way you think about a simple, quiet trip to pick up groceries. You realize that even in the most familiar environments, maintaining a baseline of awareness is just a necessary part of modern life.
It absolutely does. And, this raises an important question, something we haven't deeply explored yet, but that sits at the very core of this entire digital standoff.
What's that?
We are now living in a complex era where the primary defense against digital privacy invasion is more digital recording.
Wow, yeah, fighting fire with fire.
Exactly. Mitchell used the exact same technology, a smartphone camera, to protect herself, document the threat, and hold an alleged perpetrator accountable that he was allegedly using to violate her privacy in the first place. It is a profound modern paradox.
It really is when you frame it like that.
We have to ask ourselves, where does this escalating cycle of recording the recorder ultimately lead us? When our very first instinct in a moment of public threat is to frame the danger through a digital lens, how does that fundamentally change the way we interact, the way we trust our neighbors, and the way we simply exist in our everyday public spaces?
That is a fascinating and honestly slightly dizzying thought to leave off on. The camera as both the weapon and the shield in the modern grocery aisle. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this breakdown gave you some valuable insights into the mechanics of situational awareness, the duty of care in retail spaces, and the complexities of navigating our hyper-recorded world. Keep trusting your gut, utilize the resources around you to stay safe out there, and take some time to mull over that final question next time you find yourself reaching for your phone in a public space.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for the next episode on While We Were Distracted.